And now, ladies and gentlemen,
Put your thumbs up and say it's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, Tickety Boo, everything's Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo, son. Tickety Boo.
Tickety Boo!
Hello and welcome to Tickety Boo, and today we're talking about something that a lot of people carry quietly, pretending they're okay with a life that's actually breaking them. Maybe you're there now, maybe you've built a life that looks fine from the outside, but inside it's absolutely draining you. We're opening up to this today, not to fix it, but to sit with it honestly, so let's start there. So Iona, when you hear the phrase tolerating your life, what comes up for you personally?
Putting up with, and therefore it's denying what you experience, denying you're no longer being honest with yourself about what you truly value, what you truly want. So you're denying that just to put up with the situation that you're in.
I mean, when I hear it, I think, well, I've got no choice. This is how it is, and this is what I need to keep doing. I just need to keep going.
Yeah, I can say, and that too. And for me, I guess the denial part is we don't think we have power to change it.
Yeah.
So we're disempowering ourselves. We are being dishonest with ourselves because you do have the power to change. And actually, there was a couple of years ago, I put a post on social media. And it's like, if you're not choosing to change, then you're choosing what you've got or something to that effect. And I'd done a similar post a long time ago and everybody loved it. And then it was the last time I put it on, actually somebody went off in my comments. You don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand. You don't get it. So we've talked about it before. It's choosing to stay in that moment. And I know sometimes people are really in very difficult circumstances. So please listen to this with just with that aware. This is a blanket.
Yeah,
comment.
we're not taken away from real struggle.
Yeah, real struggle and and intense trauma. But it's you can make a choice, you can make a change. And we talked about it in the last episodes, like making micro changes in our what we're going to do, making choices that what do we want? If we're just going to be putting up and pretending life is okay.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because when you tolerate, it starts chipping away at you and it slowly erodes your self-belief, your self-worth. Yeah. And you keep saying things like, I don't know what's the matter with me. And that is a bit of a spiral that's...
Yeah, well, and then it comes to that, the self-worthiness. I'm not enough. Who am I to do this? I can't change this. I don't have the power. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve better. We can just go on. And then you end up in this downward spiral.
Yeah. But I know I can remember being there personally, and I felt like I didn't have a choice. Now, with hindsight, which is a wonderful thing, I could see I was making all the choices, but because I was so in it, so wrapped up in it, so much high emotion, so much stress, so much anxiety, I felt like there was no choice. The choice was just to keep doing the same thing and hope at some point it would change.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before. It's like coming back to that victim mentality. As life is happening to me, everything's wrong. Yeah. And versus, okay, what can this teach me? How can I learn from this? How can I grow? What are the lessons? Yeah. And it's again talking about that fixed mindset. I can't change anything. To that growth mindset. Okay, what can I change? What small measure can I do to change my situation?
But we don't change it, do we?
No.
Because of fear.
Yeah. Oh,
fear keeps us in a place that we're absolutely miserable in because we know it. There's the certainty in the unhappiness.
There's safety. We think it's safe to stay in what we know because, better the devil you know, as they say.
Yeah, I think one of the most powerful questions you can actually ask yourself is, if fear wasn't running the show, what would I do instead?
Yeah. Or another way we can frame that is if you knew you were 100% safe, what would you do? So for our listeners, one version may work better or the other.
Yeah. Just in the previous episode there, I talked about how to get peace, I had to make some choices. I had to create space for it. And I stayed in those situations and did things for way too long because I told myself I was being responsible. I was being a grown-up. I've got obligations. I can't let people down. But the truth was, I was really afraid if I stopped doing those things, what would happen if I put myself first?
And what would happen?
Yeah. Well, There was uncertainty. There was moments of self-doubt. But actually, all the stuff that I worried about didn't come to fruition.
Yeah.
You actually wake up in the morning and you feel a bit lighter, a bit freer. And as we've talked about before, I realised a lot of those things that I was worried about dropping were the things in life that I was forcing.
Yeah. And do you think part of that as well is a way of masking and also trying to be the way we think we should? We've got to like fulfilling those roles. Whereas actually, if we can get burnt out in this area. And that's another thing that we don't realise. And when we're just tolerating what we've got and pretending everything's okay, we can go, depending on what you're ignoring, we can end up depressed. Maybe we're trying to navigate we'll share my experience in a minute, but, we've got burnout, anxiety, we're living from expectation versus alignment, and we're not being truthful. But it's also a way of trying to cope and suppress.
Yeah, and also it's the shoulds. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. And I didn't actually realise all of those shoulds have kind of built this prison around me that I was trapped in. And all I could see was this prison door with the bars in front of me. But I didn't realise I had the key to let myself out. So it's like I'd built, not just me, but we build these lives based on shoulds and normally other people's stories and start to comply to them. And then go, I'm really miserable. This is not how I set out for things to be. But you go, well, this is just the way that you do it. I must keep going.
So what stopped you from being honest with yourself sooner then?
Fear.
And how did it manifest for you?
When something was niggling away at me, whether it was about making a choice, about not working with a particular person anymore, or ending a relationship, or dropping certain things. As soon as I thought that, the what if started. What if you do that, and then that happens, and then that happens, and that happens, and then that happens, and you're like, oh right, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. So fear kept me really trapped. So anxiety, uncertainty. So what I said to myself was, well, I tell you what, I'll make the decision when I don't feel those emotions.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, many years later, those decisions were still not made. The anxiety was still there. So what I learned was that if you just make the choice, this is not about being reckless and blowing your whole world up, but make the choice and lean in to those uncomfortable emotions, that prison door opens, and that's where things can begin to change, because we've talked about this before. If you don't let things go, there is no space for good to come in.
Absolutely true. And you've said that when the fear then manifested in your body as anxiety, what was then the pivotal moment, or almost the breaking point that made you decide that you had to change things? Or was it just through experiencing and
I think if being brutally honest, I would love to say I just got to this point and I was really brave and I just went, right, rip the Band-Aid off and do it. It was normally because I came up to, I don't like to swear on this podcast too much, what I call shit or bust moments, where it's like, put the decision off, delay. Oh, now I've got to make the decision. I mean, I don't mind sharing examples. We've all talked about our businesses in this, and this might seem really minor to somebody listening, but in my other business, in my events business, we had some trucks, and some of them folded out into stages, and we've done that since day one. And for the last few years, I've been like, I don't want to do that part of the business anymore. It creates me a lot of stress, a lot of expense. Running trucks is horrible. So I was like, I'm going to stop doing that. And I was like, but I've still got the trucks. Trucks are still sat there, still need to maintain them, still need to pay the insurance, still need to do the operator's license. And what actually happened was that insurance renewal came round, and I went, that is really extreme, and all I can see is massive amounts of costs ahead of me. So the choice was made.
yeah.
Now, there's been other points in my life where I've just impulsively gone, I'm not doing that anymore. But I think most of us wait till we get to those shit or bust situations. And just because we're therapists doesn't mean that we don't have the same issues that you have. We know the tools, and sometimes we pick them up early and sometimes we don't. I've learned that try not to get to the shit or bust situation, because the end result is going to be the same. The decision still needs to be made and the uncomfortable emotions will be there. But what I've noticed is that when you delay these decisions, you start to begin to feel emotionally detached from your world. Because even when you're out for a meal with a friend or out for a walk or having a lazy day, that sits in your mind because you know you've not dealt with it. So it's taking up headspace.
Literally.
And it gets heavy. You carry that stuff around with you. So, one of the things that I would say to somebody listening to this is, what are you carrying around with you that is no longer serving you?
Yeah.
And actually look at it and go, is it time I put that down? But yeah, fear and anxiety and uncertainty. And they can't be escaped.
It's interesting. I think for me, it's shown up as suppression. And we know, because this came up as our listeners, if you've been listening to us for a while, you know that not too long ago, I experienced 8 deaths over the course of 8 months. 2 of them suicides, and 1 of them was my brother. And actually, even in the last little while, I lost my dad as well, just 2 months ago. And I'm managing it now, and we talk about it. But when I was in the midst of that, 8 deaths in 8 months, I phoned you. It was like, okay, I know I need to check in, because we need to have our safe people that we can reach out to and we can lean into, because. And for me, it's like I can gauge it. Like, we were chatting and you said, so how are you? And I'm like, I'm okay. And you called me on it. I knew that I wasn't okay, even though I said I was okay, because I know that that's my default response. I know I'm just going to get on with it. And I know for me, it came from childhood. I was the elder sister. Like, when anything was happening around us, I took care of my brothers. It was always make sure everybody else is okay first. So I wasn't taking care of myself. So for me, it becomes suppression of my own emotions and my own needs.
But what were your emotions telling you at that point? What were you ignoring?
The grief and the sadness, and also, and I know this stuff. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, right, I can get on with it. And also, and being responsible and wanting to make sure everybody else is okay. So it's just like in that moment of overwhelm and being tired, and 8 deaths in 8 months is a heck of a lot.
So
I defaulted.
Are you at that point going, well, I'm always the strong and dependable one, and I need to keep being that at this moment?
Yeah.
For everyone else.
And to lead by example. I mean, I remember one of the things being told when I was younger, oh, you should know better. You're the eldest. When my brothers and I would fight, you should know better. And so it's like, right, okay, I know better. I know how to do this. I've got to lead by example. And actually, it's okay to feel the grief. And I know we've talked about this before. You've got to feel it. You get to go through it. And yes, I had moments where I was weeping, particularly around my brother's suicide. And also knowing that's okay. But I knew, purely because I thought I was okay, that I actually had to reach out and phone you and go, look, this is what's going on. I think I'm okay. And you said, yeah, but you're not okay. And I'm like, I know I'm not. But yeah, I'm curious if our listeners recognize anything in that. Is where are you ignoring and just going, yeah, this is fine. Like, we put a bandage on it. We're going to ignore it. It'll go away. I'm fine. And we put this wall up, or we think we're protecting those around us by being brave and putting that armor on. But actually, we hold on to that. We hold those emotions in our body. And so how's it going to show up? How's it going to manifest?
Well, the thing is, what happens is, very slowly, choice by choice, life starts to bend out of shape, decision by decision. And you suddenly wake up one day and you go, I can't recognize myself, and I struggle to recognize the world that I've created around me. How did I get here? And I think, if you're listening to this episode, one question you should really ask yourself is, has nothing changed and you stayed exactly where you are, doing exactly what you're doing? Is that going to be okay with you?
Yeah.
But a lot of us don't want to look in the mirror and ask ourselves that question because we're scared to hear the answer. No, things need to change.
Yeah, and I think we can start to recognize our patterns. And you and I both have come at this from different perspectives. So for me, the suppression of emotions then quite obviously, because we're trying to keep a pressure cooker, it turns into overwhelm. I mean, how many times when we were first getting to know each other would I phone you and I was like losing it over the way my teenager was behaving, but also knowing that wasn't like, it wasn't about him, it was how I was reacting. And that's the thing. So my survival mechanism is suppress it, and then I get overwhelmed, and then I blow up, because I was a very shouty parent.
Yeah. I think for a lot of us, we can probably all have those moments of frustrating teenagers, stressful jobs, life, and all the rest of it. But to me, I can remember there was a standout moment for me where one night I was just stood in the kitchen and thinking, is this it? Is this what it is now? And that moment was really scary, of standing there thinking, this is it. You know, this is how it's going to be. And I'm not saying it was a breakdown, but it was a massive moment of, I've got to do something about this.
So a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Awareness, you need.
Yeah, I would say rather than a breakdown, slowly conking out, misfiring, maybe. And I really had to change that mindset of, Andy, you weren't born just to survive.
Yeah.
You know, you have to live. But I think those moments where you know things need to change, there is a lot of fear. There is so much fear in those moments.
Yeah, and we're just saying, what are we choosing? What are we choosing to do each day?
Yeah.
And part of the way I worked through mine is slightly different. Instead of is this it? For me, it was like, oh, as we talked about in like last week's episode, is having that peace and creating space. So I actually let a lot of my work go, and I stopped trying to even stay on top of what I had. I just was letting things go, not from a place of I can't do this, but it's like, I need to emotionally take time for me. What is the most I can let go of and be okay? So so it wasn't about trying to maintain. It was like, what's the bare minimum I can do so that I can allow time and space for me to heal, for me to connect with my family, to go and visit with my other brother. And that for me is how I got through it.
Yeah, if you've got to spend your whole week just numbing things out just to survive, to get through, it's a bit like living in a house that's too small for you and thinking the problem is you and not the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Survival mode isn't living, it's coping, and coping should never be a permanent home. What part of your life now feels too small for who you're becoming? Do you have any parts of your life now that feel too small?
Oh, what a good question. I love this because this is really part of the work I'm doing with my clients.
Right.
And I get to embody it too. It's that identity piece which we've talked into.
Yeah.
So if I find that if you're finding life feeling small, it can feel constricted. It feels like it doesn't bring us joy. It doesn't feel expansive. It doesn't feel exciting, and it doesn't feel like, that energy that we're going somewhere. And so anytime I start to feel that, and my clients have noticed, it's like, well, what am I choosing next? Who am I becoming? What do I want? Because also, as we grow and evolve, we've talked about the comfort zone before. So life gets a little uncomfortable just as we step outside the comfort zone. But the thing is, that space keeps growing. So we keep stepping outside the comfort zone. We think, okay, that's it, I've arrived, this is it. And then you start getting comfortable. It starts to feel small. It's like, oh, this isn't it. It's not dissatisfaction or not being grateful. It's like, okay, and what's next? Because we're expansive human beings.
Yeah.
What do we want to do next? We're always evolving. We're always changing. So it's something I'm always revisiting, and I know if it doesn't feel expansive and something I'm stepping into, is it something I even want to continue to do? Let it go. And like, is it keeping me small? Because sometimes we need to let go of that comfort zone. Maybe we've got good. At one point, like we're at a point where we're like, gosh, I never would have dreamed of this, having, the car or the house or whatever it is, or maybe you've started a family. I always dreamt of this. I should be happy with this, but no, it's okay. We change, and then it's like, okay, now what's next? Because like we evolve, and that's the exciting part.
Yeah, I think for me, the part that feels too small for who I'm becoming or who I want to become is mindset.
Yeah.
And that might sound strange to somebody listening, but actually completely changing the way that I think about things. Because thoughts thoughts do create your reality, but thoughts can also be very restricting. They can fill you with fear. They can tell you all the pitfalls. They can tell you all the reasons to stay in a space that you don't feel happy. You know, my thoughts used to convince me that I was grateful for everything I had. And I am grateful for everything that I had. But I still felt trapped by all of that stuff. So, you know, gratitude for me didn't mean that I needed to stop growing, and I wasn't taking for granted everything I had. But sort of part of me, my mindset shift needs to be that it's okay to recognize the good in your life, but you can also still reach for better, and it's not greed.
Yeah, it's appreciation for what you've got, the journey you've had so far, and and what's next. And I think that's important. And I want, because, we both do a lot, like the mindset work has been crucial in the work that we both do and in our own personal journeys. When you say that the mindset is small, do you think also, because there's a lot of surface level mindset work, which can just be putting, literally a plaster on it or a Band-Aid, and it's going to the deeper issue, but also not getting stuck there. So because mindset, there's many levels to mindset work.
There is. And, when I add a layer of mindset on, what I really needed to look at was my beliefs. My beliefs were telling me that change is hard, it's difficult, it will probably go wrong, you'll be rejected, you'll not be successful, you're not good enough to deserve the life, you've made too many mistakes in your past, who do you think you are? And also a part of me went, somebody needs to come along and give you permission.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who that person is, but what I really needed was just to muster courage that was there inside of me that I'd forgotten about, to go, do you know what, I don't need permission, and it's okay to be afraid. And do you know what, if you make a decision and it doesn't work out the way that you want, well, that's better than not making a decision at all.
So how would you, or how do you suggest people find that courage? How can they go about when they're feeling that they're stuck, or they're feeling, I can't change this, or if I do, what if?
That's a really good question. I think part of it for me was stop kidding yourself on. Stop lying to yourself. Stop turning all of these decisions into big dramatic events. These things that you need to choose and change, that you feel stuck in, they don't define you. Most of the stuff is just stuff.
Yeah.
But give yourself permission to feel afraid. Here's the thing, right? The fear is normally at its peak as you lean into making the decision. Once you've made the decision, that fear starts to dissipate.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it won't still be there, but how many times in your life have you been afraid and got through it?
Yeah.
So actually go, do you know what? It's okay to be uncertain. It's okay to feel, like you haven't got this, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think for me, I have learned to lean in for fear. Yeah. Also, I've been incredibly impulsive, which maybe hasn't always served me well, but when I was younger. But for me, it's leaning into the fear. And I would ask people to ask themselves, what if nothing changes? Because one of my fears used to be, it's, when you've been in a relationship, it's like, do I still want to be having these same arguments or be in the same job in 5 years' time? And it's like, well, yes or no, and you can make a decision on that. But it's also, what if nothing changes? So fear has actually been a really big driver for me.
Yeah, when you go, I don't want to change it because I'm afraid. But what if it stays like this forever? Oh, God, that really makes me afraid.
That's more terrifying.
Yeah, it is. I think the key point is that you don't have to completely burn your life down.
Yeah.
It's about actually one honest decision and a proper conversation with yourself, and actually just giving yourself permission to change things. Like I didn't change my life overnight. I haven't changed my life. I am changing my life, and that process is ongoing. But I think the first thing was stopping the overcommitment. Stop overcommitting to things. The pretending, and giving myself space to feel what I needed. Humans are amazing at filling their life up with stuff and things to do and places to go and commitments to take on. And normally we're doing all of that because it takes us away from what we really need to be looking at. I was an absolute expert at that. And, when you create space in your life, you press the pause button. Unfortunately, most people only get to press the pause button through illness. We've talked about this before. You had that moment during COVID where we had lockdown. We don't get that many moments, or what I call do-overs, where life gives you a chance to have a bit of a do-over. But I have learned that if you don't take those chances, life will force you
Absolutely
to do a do-over.
Yeah.
So, it's about the peace and space, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And I think one of my do-overs or resets was a couple of years ago, I think maybe about 3 years ago. Remember, I hurt my back so bad I couldn't even put my socks on. It was Christmas Eve, threw my back out. So I spent Christmas Day on the sofa waiting for my neighbours to go and get my prescription. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in my early 50s at that point. Is this my life? Is this all I've got to look forward to? Is I can't even put my own socks on. I can't get dressed. And I was feeling so sorry for myself. And I was actually scared as well to get back into exercise and start moving. Literally, by the way, I wasn't doing anything strenuous. I was literally flattening a box. It's just really stupid things. But then in that moment, it's I gradually started building my strength up. I started having more mobility than I'd had before. Mm-hmm. So this is why I'm coming back to movement again and what choices am I making?
Look after your health.
Because every time I go down, it's I want to continue to travel. I want to be able to drive over to Glasgow. It's an hour drive for me.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I didn't even know if that would ever be possible because I was that literally stuck on the sofa.
Yeah. I think the key thing is, first of all, stop pretending you're okay with a life that you secretly want to run and hide away from. Yeah. You don't have to fix everything today. You just have to stop lying to yourself about how much it's costing you carrying all of this stuff. And it's not selfish to want more, is it?
No, it's not. And also, the other thing is we're allowed to want to begin again.
Yeah.
Also, you can have a reset, so don't beat yourself up. It's like for me, I was getting really physically fit and gradually let it go. I let it go, so I'm coming back to it. And I think that's the thing. Be forgiving with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of self-compassion.
Yeah.
So takeaway from this episode is stop pretending you're okay with a life you secretly want to run away from. You can, over time, step by step, piece by piece, start to create a life that feels more aligned with you and your values. We hope you found this episode of benefit. As always, thank you very much for listening and watching. If you're on Spotify or Apple, please click that follow, subscribe button, and same on YouTube as well, so you can be notified when we release new episodes. Thanks for watching.
If you or someone close to you needs to access mental health support, please contact your GP, or if it's out with normal office hours, get in touch with NHS 24 on 111. Alternatively, contact the Samaritans on 116 123. All calls are free of charge from any phone. You can also find more support information on the Tickety Boo website, ticketyboopodcast.co.uk.